Hey, what's going on, my friends? Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Victor, and today I'm going to share with you an energy update for the week of April 24th through the 30th. We're just coming off a powerful eclipse, and this week is kind of interesting because it might start off a little bit slowly, but all that momentum that was created from the transformations and maybe some changes that you experienced in like an accelerated way in the past couple of weeks, that momentum is still there, even though you might not be able to see it playing out in your life earlier in the week. But as the dust settles, you'll find yourself starting to gain footing in this new reality, in a sense, this new way of being, this new way of relating with life, this new direction, this new you toward the latter half of the week. What I'm going to do now is share with you 3 more specific and grounded themes that you may or may not be experiencing this week. Number 1, letting the dust settle. As I kind of mentioned earlier, you might feel like the week is starting off slow, and it's not because you're not ready and willing to kind of hit the ground running, and there might be things you want to do and plan to do and are excited to do. You might just feel a little bit like, it's like tough to get your footing, a little bit maybe scattered, maybe a little tired. Some of you might feel pretty good physically now that the eclipse has passed, but you might just find it difficult to get the ball rolling. And that's common. It has to do a lot with just the different polarities of the human experience. After a big breakthrough, after a lot of energy, a lot of shifts, both inner and outer, it feels like you want to sustain it, kind of. But what goes up must come down. And that's okay. In fact, I read a lot of books by Stoic philosophers, Marcus Aurelius in particular. I read his meditations book almost every morning. I didn't today, I should have, but most mornings I read this guy's book. And he talks a lot about this aspect of remaining present and neutral and like cool with the inevitable ups and downs of life. He has this thing, I'm going to paraphrase and probably do a poor job of it, but he says, like, if you throw a ball up in the air, it comes down. And basically, the way he puts it is like, is it good when the ball's going up? Or is it bad when the ball's coming down? And he says, no, it's just an up and down thing. Up is connected to down, down is connected to up, it's okay. You might have had a big breakthrough, a lot of feeling very expansive, tapped in at a deeper level, new plans, new visions that excite you and resonate are at the forefront, and you're high, and now you're kind of like, is this bad? No, it's okay. And it's common. It reminds me also of this guy I used to watch back a few years ago. He was on Cosmic Disclosure on the Gaia television network. His name is Corey Good. Some of you know him. Some of you don't. It's okay. Corey Good was a guy who, we'll just put it this way, kind of mildly. He had a lot of profound astral, if not actual, encounters, experiences with the other side, with extraterrestrials. For what it's worth, he believes he was like abducted like many, many, many times and traveled to other worlds and the moon, all this crazy stuff. I'm not saying to buy into that, but anyway, the way he would put it, and it relates nicely to this situation, is after he'd go on one of his adventures, he would come back because there was so much new information, so many new unfamiliar experiences that he would have in such a short little window of time. He'd get back from one of these like adventures to the stars, and he said what he would do was he would just sit in his living room and he would stare at the wall for hours. He said he would have to do that to kind of reorient himself, to let the dust settle. And yeah, you're taking time out of your day. I know you're excited to get things going. But if we're not grounded, if we're not present, and if we haven't processed, what does it mean to process? If we haven't really sat with and allowed our mind time to sort out the different things that have come up and come into our field of awareness and that we've thought about, and if if we haven't let the dust settle, then we can force ourselves to go forward, which is what I used to do a lot in the past, but it's going to be kind of sloppy. It's not going to be, it's almost like it's not going to be built on a solid foundation. It'll be rather built on eagerness and impatience, and again, not from an integrated, holistic, solid, present place. So as best I can now, I still am a restless dude. I like to be doing stuff and moving forward, but I'm feeling this energy as well. And I woke up this morning with all this stuff I intended to do. And I just found myself like I have to go to a dentist appointment like after this video, and I got like nothing done besides this video. And I was even wondering if this was gonna even happen. And in the moment I was like, oh man, I'm really kind of wasting my time. I had plans to do other things, but as I share this, I'm realizing it's okay. It's okay to let the dust settle. Number 2, it's a fantastic time to go back to school. I use that metaphorically for investing in yourself. Maybe there's some new skills you want to learn or feel excited to learn, or maybe you have a new goal. I want to do this. I want to start a retreat center one day. And say, okay, well, what do the owners of retreat centers know? What kind of skills do they possess? You might find yourself attracting into your life maybe a coach or a course or a mentor or even a YouTube channel where it's all about that. And even though there's a big learning curve, it's a good time to begin that journey of learning. And I find that the relevant skills that we would benefit from in life, they tend to kind of float into our life naturally, oftentimes very effortlessly, and they also stand out to us. They kind of wink at us. I remember years ago, I was writing something on my computer. I remember I was like sitting on the floor writing, and all of a sudden, for some reason, I just felt compelled to look up Dolores Cannon. I don't know why. I don't remember what led up to it. It was years ago. But anyway, I was like in the middle of my day, and all of a sudden I thought about Dolores Cannon, who's an awesome hypnotherapist who's deceased now, and I looked her up, and then there was this advertisement that came up at the top of my screen, and it was for her QHHT, Quantum Healing Hypnosis Technique certification program. And I've seen that before. I've seen it on Facebook and stuff, and I saw it this time, and it like, the best way I could put it is it winked at me. It stood out to me. It called to me. I felt like, whoa, I gotta click on that. And I clicked on it, and I read through like the sales page, and it just resonated so deeply. I was like, man, this would be awesome. I can't believe I never thought about being a QHHT practitioner. And here it is. And then it's like, it's like a lot of money. And then my mind started thinking, and but I've learned to go with that feeling. Even though I didn't want to spend the money, I just did it. And it was one of the best investments I've ever made. And I enjoyed the program. I learned so much. I remember even being sad when it was over, because I just loved listening to all the different course material as I went on my morning walks. Since then, I've performed countless, probably like 50 or more, maybe 50 to 100 QHHT sessions, oftentimes in groups. So now, because of that one decision to follow that resonance, there have been thousands upon thousands of people that have been introduced to this quantum healing technique. And that's kind of how this all works, and how I'm kind of going off on a tangent now, but how much potential there is when all of the individuals follow this intuition to simply do the next step. And sometimes the next step requires an investment or a leap of faith, or the mind can have its objections, but it's always connected to something completely worthwhile for the individual, but also the collective. So I'm not saying this will happen. These are just like my intuitive energy updates, oftentimes inspired to my own life. That's what I'm going through in this moment. If you find yourself attracted to something, it can have to do with you building your skills or deepening your spiritual growth or anything related to your passion. I'd say now's a very favorable time to do that. Number 3, for lack of a better way of putting it, and I don't even like the way I'm going to put it because it's so cliche, but finding your purpose finally. How many of you have already been wanting to find your purpose, or this idea, life purpose, to explain an outlet, a creative outlet that gives you a sense of deep satisfaction and an undeniable, where you know you're contributing, like you're being useful and adding something to the whole in some way. And this could be maybe you become a famous speaker like Tony Robbins and reach millions of people, or it could mean you just become like this amazing parent and you really take pride in knowing that your children are going to go off into the world. You might light the spark that eventually go off and become the Tony Robbins, and it's like your passion. And a lot of us, we go through life and we just become aware after a few years of our spiritual awakening, or sometimes more, sometimes less, but there's an awareness that I haven't found it yet. I'm not living as authentic of a life as I know I can. I know I'm not going to be as happy as possible until I find it. But that awareness, that yearning can go unfulfilled for quite some time, and it can drive you a little bit nutty because you want to find it. You're trying to find it. There are times you think you found it only to realize that nope, that also is not it, and you're back to the drawing board. And it can be very frustrating and very discouraging as you put so much time and energy into this experimentation with all these different things, and none of them seem to feel, you just know they're not a fit. But all of that experimentation, it is connected to you finally finding that thing. And it's not just one thing, one mission, one purpose, but there is something kind of like that, I would say, for a lot of us, where you do find this project that's an investment of your creative energy that is kind of a longer term thing, even though it's not perfectly clear. I would say this is a good week to find it. We've gone through some major transformations, some major shifts, some major life changes. And a lot of times the universe will do this to set people up, to set fellow seekers up, people going through an awakening process, set them up for their opportunity to add to the whole in some way. And it's a time to not settle. Because oftentimes we can just either give up or settle because it's a frustrating thing to keep on trying to find our purpose, our thing. It reminds me of many years ago. It's going to seem unrelated, but it's not, and it's a very important story. Many years ago, my wife and I, we went through a spiritual awakening, and we kind of woke up to the fact that our entire life was not a fit at all. It wasn't authentic and it wasn't satisfying, and we just had this knowing that we have to leave. We have to sort of start from scratch. So this is like back in 2010 or 11, and we sold our house, moved into an RV, and we just headed down to South Florida because it was cold in Michigan from where we came. And we got to Florida. We kind of followed this calling blindly, but it felt appropriate anyway to do all those other things, sell the house, get the RV, and go to Florida. When we got to Florida, I went to the Gulf side, like in like Cape Coral, and we were like, you know what, this is not exactly what we had in mind. We haven't found it yet. And at the time it was quite like holy cow, we just did so many drastic things, and here we are still haven't found it yet. Like when is it going to happen, and what do we got to do to find this elusive feeling of alignment in our life? So eventually we went over to the other side, to the Pacific side of Florida, Boca Raton, Deerfield area, and we were looking around, and all of a sudden just the energy there, for whatever reason, it's not good or bad, but it called to us. It felt like, ooh, this feels better over here. This is kind of more what we were intuitively, hoping for, this type of vibe, this type of experience. It just called to us. And then after a little while, we decided we're going to get an apartment here, or we're going to rent a house here rather. And this felt like, it felt like we were on track. It felt like this, we just knew this is the right move to make. We're going to find this house. And because we were staying over on the other side, we'd have to take these long 3-hour trips to come and look at houses and then go back. And it was kind of an ordeal. And I remember one of the times we planned an all-day trip to go from the Gulf side to the Pacific side. And we had a bunch of houses to look at. And the first house we looked at, it was really nice. It was like, wow, this could totally work. It seemed really cool, and we were thinking finally we found it. After all this journeying in the darkness, this house has been illuminated. Finally, we found it. And we went through the house and it was awesome, good location. And then we made our way to the backyard and there was like 2 or 3 huge pit bulls right in the neighbor's house. And the fence was kind of small. And just for the record, I love pit bulls, but we had a pit bull. And I know from experience, they don't tend to get along with one another. They're both alpha mentality type of dogs, and I've seen dog fights, not watching them, but I've seen them happen in like random situations, and it's a very dangerous and serious situation. So for us, we just knew, oh my God, it can't be this. We're like, man, what is it gonna take? And then we said, okay, we'll scratch that. Now we have confirmation, we can't do this house. Let's go to the next house. Went to the next house and it started to make sense why that one didn't fit, because this one was better. It was a little bigger, it was closer to the ocean, it was kind of a nicer, higher vibe neighborhood, and the house was really cool. And we were like, wow, that's why the dogs were there. Because we needed that confirmation, because we would have just gotten that house. We would have settled for that house. And this house is so perfect. And we made our way upstairs and we saw the master bedroom. It was awesome. And then we checked out the master bathroom, and to our amazement, the freaking roof collapsed. There was like dust and drywall everywhere. And we were apparently the first to discover it. Even the owners must not have known. And it was like it was like the whole ceiling had some water damage or something and just freaking collapsed everywhere. So you're like, geez, this is crazy. Okay, fine. I guess this also isn't it. It's getting harder to stay faithful. We only got 1 or 2 more houses left. But we're gonna try. It was like the 3rd house only. We went to the 3rd house and it was way closer to the ocean. Everything about it was better. We thought this is why, once again, we had these clear, definitive, things that made us say no to these other options, because this one is finally the best. And we pulled up, and I already liked it from the get-go, from just seeing the front, knowing the area, the location was real close to the ocean. And sure enough, we pulled up and some guy walks out of the garage opens, and some guy walks out of the garage taking the garbage out. And already we were like a little perplexed, like what's going on? You know, how you doing? We're here to see the house. And he said, oh, well, I just rented it. My mind is just going. I'm like, this is a big mistake. The fact that I thought I could trust this feeling of intuition, here we are, kind of homeless, you know, just beyond discouraged. And I was just so beaten. And then we with our heads hung low, you know, we drove away, went to this hotel because it was too late to go home. And all of a sudden, I got a phone call. Ding, ding. No, my phone's not around. I was going to animate that. I got a phone call from the real estate agent. She said, Victor, I found the house. I found your house. It's only $15 above your budget, which is like nothing, obviously. And I was like, okay. At this point, I was not getting my hopes up. And she sent us a little GPS, pin or whatever. Said, meet me here right now. I was like, okay. Whatever. At this point, I had lost faith. I was bitter. I was pissed off at my spirit guides and higher self for leading me into this situation. But I was like, whatever, we got nothing else to do. Got time to kill, let's go. And I'll never forget looking at my GPS on my truck, seeing how close we were getting to the ocean. And that was that's what we wanted. We wanted kind of that beach town, laid back vibe, where we can go to be a beach bum for a while. And anyway, we got closer and closer and closer. And all of a sudden, my GPS is nothing but pure blue. And we were almost in the ocean, basically. And I was like, how close to the ocean is this house? And we finally got to this house, and it was literally a walk away from the beach. And it was just so perfect. It was probably 5 times more ideal and resonant and exciting than those other 3 things that we would have previously settled for. And I say this all to you in this sort of drawn out way to remind you not to lose hope, not to settle, and to understand your higher self has this tendency to over-deliver. You might think your purpose needs to look a certain way, and you'd be totally happy if you found yourself doing this thing, in this role, in this position. Your mind, however, is very limited in its ability to really see your true potential and also anticipate all the many unforeseen variables that influence your feeling of alignment and happiness and gusto. Your higher self, however, it sees your entire life from this higher conscious mountaintop, and it knows all the different experiences you need to go through. It knows the things that will cause you to not settle. So what I'm saying, if you've been finding yourself running into problems, running into a wall, failure, pitfall, one after the other, after the other, after the other, this is your higher self hooking you up. This is your higher self saying there's something better, you just gotta keep going, you just gotta trust, and when you see it, when you feel it, you'll know it. And that's also the vibe. That's the vibe I feel for the tail end of the week. If you've been seeking, if you've been unclear, just let the dust settle. Allow yourself to invest in yourself and learn a new trade, or even maybe you just decide you wanna meditate more and whatever. You got the time, you can trust, and just don't settle, because it's all that momentum. It's not gone away, even though it's not in your focal awareness in this moment. It will culminate. It's culminating right now. And if you resonate with the whole tale and you feel it, then just keep following that feeling. You will not be disappointed. All of your spiritual growth, it does lead to better and better and better and better and better and better situations. More and more and more resonant, more and more reflective of this new you that you've been sort of excavating through your shadow work and through the changes, through the leaps of faith. You're just like digging out this treasure. And when you find you start to feel it. And that's why you're chasing feeling. You're chasing a sense of resonance. Eventually, that resonance will materialize itself in a circumstance, a purpose, a life situation that you never even thought possible. Okay, my friends, I gotta bounce. I'm gonna be late for my dentist appointment. I might already be late. Before I go, I wanna let you know, in case you've never heard me say this before, I created a free guided meditation to help you connect with your intuition, connect with your higher self in a very effortless way. It's something I really sort of channeled or was inspired by me, and thousands of people have gone through it. It's totally free. You can take it if you want. I'll leave a link down below. Free meditation. You can download it right to your computer, and it's awesome for a lot of different purposes, especially if you want to really connect more deeply with your true self, your intuition, your power, your higher self. I'll leave a link down below. With that said, I'll see you all next time. Have an amazing day, my friends. Peace.